This is NHL Wraparound Quick Takes. It's time for another edition of Spring Cleaning. The Winnipeg Jets were eliminated on April the 13th. Neil, for the second consecutive year, the President's Trophy winner does not make the playoffs the following season. The New York Rangers winning in 23-24, failing to make the playoffs in 24-25, and the Winnipeg Jets this past spring.
Yeah, and no one expected this. I think when we did our summer coolers, we thought that the big three in the Central Division would be the Colorado Avalanche. It would also be the Dallas Stars and the Winnipeg Jets. And the Jets were grounded this year.
We didn't have the Wild in that mix, but there was some realism when we assessed this team during the offseason and what they should look ahead for. We certainly saw them as a playoff team, maybe getting home ice advantage, but you got to remember that there were a couple of big departures. Nikolai Ehlers went off and signed with Carolina, and Mason Appleton with the Detroit Red Wings, so they were a little bit weaker in the forward position. There was also some unknown with what Jonathan Toews would bring after he had been out for several years, coming back from long COVID and went over to India to have panchakarma treatment. And also, there was some question about the scoring from the third and fourth lines to take some of the onus off Mark Scheifele, Kyle Connor, and Gabe Vilardi.
Absolutely right. And we wondered if Jonathan Toews was an experiment. Would he bring great leadership like he showed in Chicago? Were they on the brink of being a contender and therefore one more Stanley Cup winner, multiple Stanley Cup winner? In fact, what would that do for this team? They have the reigning Vezina and MVP trophy winner in Hellebuck in net. So it was hard to imagine that this would be a team that wouldn't make the playoffs.
Here's the reality of 25-26 for the Jets. They dropped 34 points in the standings. Their goal differential, I know how much you love this stat, fell from plus 86 to minus 29. That is a total of 115 difference from one year to the next. They did start well enough, 9-3-0, and we even had Kevin Cheveldayoff on right after the first game where the slide started. They went 6-19-5 in their next 30, and this included 4 regulation time losing streaks of at least 3 games and an 0-7-4 slide. And here are the raw stats with the players. Connor Hellebuck, in his MVP Vezina Trophy season of 24-25, dropped from 47-12-3 with a goals against average of 2 and a save percentage of .925 to 23-23-11, 2.86 and .895 save percentage, which was kind of around where the league was this year. On top of that, the dependency on that top line was very profound, and that's not really what they wanted. 105 of their 231 goals came from that top line, and that's 45.4%. Now, in terms of the support players, Cole Perfetti, Vlad Nemestikov, Nito Niederreiter, Adam Lowry, the captain, and Alex Iafallo collectively dropped from 77 to 46 total goals, and free agent signee Gustav Nyquist, a disastrous season statistically, 1 goal, 12 points in 51 games.
Yeah, so they didn't do a lot in the summer, and they didn't get any secondary scoring. All the pressure went on that top line, as you outlined, Scheifele, Connor, Vilardi. They did have injuries, but everybody has injuries. Hellebuck was not as sharp this year until the Olympics came around. And then he was very sharp in the Olympics. In fact, I still say he single-handedly won the gold medal for the U.S. But the one guy they signed as a free agent, Nyquist, had a dreadful year offensively, and their bottom 6 didn't contribute a lot to the offense for the team, and that's where you get in your goal differential.
You know how much of a challenge that Winnipeg market is to attract free agents. You deal with the Canadian dollar. You deal with the Winnipeg weather. You have often said, though, that players that actually go and they play in Winnipeg, they love it. And they did manage to get Mark Scheifele and Hellebuyck under long-term contracts. But now that the realization of missing the playoffs has come into full focus here, you're Kevin Cheveldayoff. You have 7 picks in the upcoming draft. You have none in the second round. You traded that along with a 2027 fourth rounder to Pittsburgh in order to acquire Luke Schenn. You do have 2 in the 7th, your own, and the pick acquired from Buffalo in the Tanner Pearson deal. You have $3.3 million in projected cap space. Your UFAs, Nyquist, who I don't see them re-signing after this past season, Taves, who I don't think will play anywhere else except Winnipeg, and then a pair of defensemen, Colin Miller and Jacob Bryson, who's acquired in the Logan Stanley deal, and backup goaltender Eric Comrie. And your RFAs, Cole Perfetti and Isak Rosen, who was also acquired in that Logan Stanley deal. And by the way, Luke Schenn, who was acquired from Pittsburgh, as we mentioned a couple of moments ago, was also sent to Buffalo as part of that trade. There's your layout for what's ahead. How are you moving?
It's a very, very hard market. It's a hard place to get free agents to come to. You know, you've got to overpay in some cases. Players, once they get there, they love it there. And if they talk to their friends that play there, they'll convince them that it's a great place to play. I'm sure that it is. But there's more that goes into making a decision of where you're going to sign than how much the players love it. There's families, there's schools, there's wives, there's different things that go into this decision. And it is hard for Winnipeg to attract free agents, let's face it. So Kevin Cheveldayoff will have his hands full this summer. I doubt that they'll sign Comrie. I can't see them signing Taves. Maybe they do because he's a hometown guy, but boy, oh boy, they got to sign Perfetti. You know what? They just have a lot of work to be done, and they've got to find a way to attract some high-end guys so that they can get back up there, because they do have, you know, a nucleus still of very good players. Morrissey on defense is excellent. So Kevin will have his hands full.
Don't forget Neil Pionk as well on that back line. But let's not leave this with total doom and gloom, because last October, Cheveldayoff did manage to get Kyle Connor under a long-term contract, and he'll be starting an 8-year deal at $12 million per next season.
Yeah, and that $12 million in Winnipeg is probably about 15 to 16 million Canadian, and you might be the richest guy in Manitoba. Look, Kevin Cheveldayoff, I think, has done as good a job as you could do in the Winnipeg market. He's gotten Scheifele signed to a long-term deal. He's gotten Hellebuyck signed to a long-term deal. As you said, he's got Kyle Connor signed to a long-term deal. I mean, he's gotten commitments out of top guys. He's just got to go now and try to find a way to fill in with better depth and better secondary scoring for this team to get them back to the playoffs.